Thank you, Presiding Officer, and let me commence by moving the amendment that stands in my name. And let me give the Chamber the assurance that on this issue we are able to make common cause with our colleagues in the Liberal Party. Liam McArthur talked of a rural fuel derogation. That is a broadly encompassing term that has a range of possible options within it. Let's not get unduly fixated about how to do it. Let's unite around the principle that it must be done. Let's make sure that we are able, despite the unhelpful interventions of Mr Purvis, who appears to have forgotten the previous debate has now been completed, that we will unite around the idea that we should see duty reduce.
I'm grateful. Purvis. It's a serious point that I make to the Minister. If he says that the principle is to have overall support for an idea with regards to derogation, then why cannot the same be used for other businesses that are being affected, which includes rural petrol stations, on having overall principle for the support of transitional relief, which will have an impact on them precisely? Stewart Stevenson.
The member, of course, Presiding Officer, knows that the Small Business Bonus Scheme has delivered benefit to 66,000 businesses across Scotland. No party, no government has previously made the efforts that we have made to support small businesses, particularly benefiting businesses in rural areas. But to return to the issue of this particular debate, Presiding Officer, I very much welcome the fact that Liam McArthur has brought, for what regretfully appears to be an annual debate, this issue forward again, because we have yet to see the kind of movement on the government's part that recognises the real concerns that exist in remote, rural and island areas of Scotland about the effect of fuel duty, the effect of high prices on these communities. And indeed, as I said in the debate in April last year, it is an issue which affects the people of Cumbria, Northumbria, Cornwall, Devon, Wales. It is an issue that will affect others in other parts of the United Kingdom, and I'm sure they will be interested in what we have to say in this debate. But as Liam McArthur said, with a particularly high proportion of our population living in rural and remote areas, the effect on these communities cannot be underestimated. There is a disproportionate burden placed on households and businesses, and that is particularly in these difficult economic times. Now, Liam recognised that we have again recently engaged by letter with the UK Government. He should, of course, Presiding Officer, not imagine that it is limited to an exchange of letters. We regularly meet with, we regularly have telephone conversations with ministers from the UK administration. This is a subject which is raised on a wide range of fronts, a subject which forms the part of the dialogue that ministers across a range of portfolios put forward in speeches and meetings that we have with a wide range of people. Writing to the Chancellor on the issue is of course important to formally put on the record the need to reduce the fuel price differential between urban and rural households and businesses throughout Scotland. Mr Swinney, I will, yes.
Minister, for taking an intervention. I think it's helpful what he's set out by way of the representations that have been made, but will he not accept that the direct response to Spice from Scottish Government officials was that that letter on the 18th of November was the most recent representation made by the Government on this issue?
Well, I'm certainly happy to explore why Spice had that view, but of course do be aware that not all correspondence that comes from the Government to the UK administration is necessarily and routinely put before Spice, but I'm happy to ensure that we make sure that members are well aware of our activity on this. I hope this debate and my remarks have provided the opportunity to provide clarity. It is important to look at the evidence of the disparity in fuel pricing between rural and urban areas, and in particular Mr McArthur will of course be aware that there is about a 10p disparity between Kirkwall and Glasgow. It varies day to day, week to week, but it is enduring and of that order. and the Western Isles and the Shetlands similarly have very large burdens that come from the cost of fuel. And of course, we had a reference made to beer purchase. Well, of course, the purchase of beer, more expensive in London as I'm sure it is of course a voluntary purchase, whereas the provision of fuel for vital rural services is not a discretionary buy on the part of businesses. It is not a discretionary buy on people who have to travel to their work, who have to transport themselves around. We all, of course, across Scotland do have to look at whether every journey we make is a necessary one, but where the options for public transport are fewer, as they inevitably are in rural areas, fewer of our journeys are discretionary, more of them are a matter of necessity, more of them, therefore, are affected by the high taxation regime. The latest letter that went to the Chancellor on the 19th of March this year asked that he reconsider his decision not to take corrective action through the tax system, because a derogation of whatever character, be it the one proposed by the Conservatives, ourselves, or the variant from the Liberals, any will do if they deliver the result. I'm not partisan in this matter. It would make a real difference and create a more equal footing between rural areas and urban areas, reducing the competitive barriers that exist through high fuel prices. The Chancellor's latest rejection has simply let down thousands of households and businesses in remote parts of Scotland who face these very high fuel costs, despite, as Liam McArthur and I'm sure others will make reference, the actions that have been permitted right across the European Union where the case has been made and argued by national administrations, in particular the incidents of Corsica, an island greatly affected by high fuel prices, now benefiting from the actions of the French government. And of course, with the price of petrol having risen by 27% in the year to March 2010, it is important that we get the early action that will take action. We have seen a change in the way increases will be phased in, but increases there still will be. It's time for action. I will be, on behalf of my party, supporting the Liberals' motion and, of course, my own.